Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on business continuity in the COVID-19, the coronavirus environment. I'm sure that most of you, if not all of you, are sitting at home or wherever, but not definitely in office. And for most companies like mine, most of the companies that even I know of, business continuity was something that thrust on almost all of us on an almost instantaneous basis when the government declared that okay, there has to be a lockdown, and of course there was a reason for that. But all said, people evolved very fast to the new business requirement of getting a business continuity in place, and of course with it came the risk and the trials and the errors and heartache and the pain. So let us look at what can be thought of or what can be learned from this disaster. Anyway, so going ahead, thank you so much for being there. And we, as always, so many of you have joined us online. And before we start, one quick question, one quick point that I would like to mention is that do ensure that you drop in whatever queries that you might have, wherever, whatever it might be about. I might not I'll try my best to answer all of them immediately, but in case I'm not able to, I promise you one thing that I will write back to you because many a time there are like dozens of queries and I just have like a 45-minute window to make this presentation. And without a fault, I have always responded to all the queries, at least in the offline manner. So do keep your queries coming in. So the unthinkable has happened and we have been hit with the asteroid of the coronavirus COVID-19. So that is something that was least expected even last year when I remember because last year when this thing happened in China and we could see parts of the Wuhan province being cut off. Many companies, most if not all of them, ever thought it would reach the level that it is today. And so there was a least preparation for all of these things. So what is the webinar objectives? There are three things. We're looking at what are the lessons learned, what are the top five information security threats and the top five approaches to working securely from home. Now, I do remember before anybody of you prompts me is that there are two topics. One is with regards to compliance with PCI DSS, GDPR, HIPAA, and the next is remote audit provisions. But the point is that I made the presentation. It was running into more than 100 slides in the least. So I had to unfortunately decide to drop off those 2 points, but my next webinar that will be coming up in May, if not in May, somewhere mid-May, would cover those two areas with regards to remote assessments, with regards to disaster recovery and PCI DSS, GDPR scenarios, and the overlapping with the work from home culture that is here to stay. So my apologies on that, but I will make it up. I promise you that. So for our we've done tons of videos. This is our 34th webinar. So we've done 33 earlier, and if you visit our YouTube channel, you can go to our YouTube page. You can search for Vista InfoSec official and you'll find a website, and there'll be tons of videos, all free content on PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, ethical hacking, NIST guidelines, cloud security, you name it, most of the content would be there. So please do sign up over there. And this is my favorite quote, as I always say, it's not the answer that enlightens, but the question. So keep your questions flowing. A brief about me. Many of you who are there online we are privileged to have you as a clients. But for the rest, this is me, Narendra Sahu. I'm the director for Vista InfoSec, my company. Myself a PCI, QPA, QSA, CISSP, CISA, CRISC, a few more things here and there. So I've been in the industry for like 25 years, of which 15 years was with this company of my company, Vista InfoSec. I have worked across all the verticals. And okay, enough about me. A brief about my company. We are established in 2004. We have our offices in US, Singapore, India. We are ourselves 27,001 certified. And we are totally vendor and product neutral. And we have been ranked by Deloitte as one of the fastest growing companies in APAC. This is our services profile. There is literally, we literally have 3 separate departments in our team. There is the compliance and governance. We do all is 27,001, 20,000, and 22,301. We even do 27,701, which is with regards to privacy. There is also a standard for cloud security. 2701. We are also for PCI DSS, PIN, business continuity management. We do a lot of local, international regulation compliance. Cloud risk, we are also there for VAPTs, and one that gets us most of the contracts is we have a tech team. So we don't just give you, advisors in air. We've got a tech team to even help you close the gaps, which is there. And last but not the least, we have our online and offline training portal, academiacompliance.com, wherein we provide corporate trainings on site and off site. Moving ahead, and these are a few of our client concerns who we have been privileged to work with, including the Reserve Bank and the NPCI for so many years now. So, okay, enough about us. And towards the end, there will be a survey. Please do ensure that you fill it up. We take a lot of time and effort to make the presentation. So do give us a feedback on what you think, any topics that you have in mind. Now, the goals. Okay, why do we plan? With regards to business continuity, primarily speaking, if you just look at the US environment, just in the 2018, there has been billion-dollar weather and climate disasters. Of course, 2019 and 20 has been taken over by the COVID-19 virus, and there's been unprecedented and unmitigated, and it is still, there is no end in sight as of now. So there has been, just in the United States, there has been multi-billion-dollar weather and climate disasters. And if you look at the just the United States, there has been increasing frequency and increasing expense. So over the past 3 years, there has been an historic average number of billion-dollar disasters. Average is like 15 billion. Now it is much more than that, and the average long-term average is more than 6.2. And the average annual cost of billion-dollar disasters is like 42.8 billion, and the annual average cost for the last 5 years is 99.1 billion with each disaster. So it is running into, and if you do the maths over the years for each disaster across the years, it runs into trillions of dollars. So concerning data, the number of cost has gone, the number and cost of disasters are increasing with time, and this can be attributed to three factors. One is increasing exposure to, one is open travel, the other is the size of the world shrinking due to online working, on-site online working, work from home. There is video conferencing. The world has opened up as far as trading is concerned. More and more people are traveling now. There's vulnerabilities are increasing, and with and of course there is a climate change which is happening, which is taking care of, what to say, most of the disasters happening in the world. And these are the private and the public sector, and you can see the public sector, okay, public goods not affected by recession, government job to protect the environment, and helps in reducing inequality in the society. The four primary concerns of the public sector, and there we are on the right hand side. Now, as you can see, we all fall in the private sector, and the majority of the acts falls on the private sector, wherein for us the requirement for business continuity, for ensuring that delivery happens on time in a secure way without inconveniencing our clients, assumes priority for all of us. Now let's look at a few percentages. What percentage of business never open after a disaster? You'll be shocked to hear that's 40%. 40% of the businesses never reopen after a disaster, and that's where after 9/11, most of the companies scuttled for a BCP that work has to continue at any cost. But even beyond a particular limit, work cannot really continue because effective planning has not happened. So I really hope that this lockdown ends, and this coronavirus gets taken care of pretty soon. And what percentage of companies that do reopen fail within a year following a disaster? Again, 25%. So net after a major disaster has happened, 40 plus 25, 65% of the companies are dead within a year. So that is a global statistic. So that's where the work from home culture comes into place. And this is as per Bloomberg and Rabobank. You can see the global impact, economic impact of COVID-19. You can see there is no corona. The blue line, the orange line was baseline scenario with the corona risk scenario in the pandemic. So all are dipping, and many going, including the US, UK, France, and the Europe, Germany, Japan, Italy, all going in negatives. And even for India, it's showing as this scenario in pandemic as 3%, 3 point something, and many many organizations have including the Barclays have what to say, even quoted zero or negative growth for even a country like India, which is so resilient and has grown even in the past disasters of 2010, 2008. And how it is going to impact the tech industry, especially the shipments. Now I'll come to why about this slide. More from the business continuity scenario, more from the work from home scenario. What really matters to us is uh, there should be smartphones working, smart speakers working, or the headphones and all Bluetooths working, and most importantly, notebook laptops working properly. And this all the shipments has gone into negative -10, -12, -12.1, -12.3. So this is going to impact the work in with the working culture of organizations in the business continuity scenario. Now, let me give my example. Like I was caught at my alternate home, not in my own home, in my own home, but in an alternate place, alternate home that I have. I was caught and I've been stuck here in a good way, rather, because it's a beautiful place. It's a bungalow, and I've been stuck here for the past like more than a month. Now, what has happened is that my headphone has gone bad. One of my left side speakers is not working properly, and if this headphone conks out, I'll be in trouble with my video conferences and even this webinars. Those things are happening. So now the shipments outside, whatever is available at a whopping cost. People are charging just whatever they want because there is simply no supply. So as you must have heard this point, that is the devil is always in the details. You might have a big component in place, but it might not work because a simple small nut bolt is not working. It could be that your laptop, everything is working fine, but the connector of your adapter charger has stopped working, is has broken. Then what do you do? And you don't have access to it, or it's simply not available because the shipments are not happening. So those points becomes extremely important for many organizations to continue. So as you are planning for business continuity in this COVID-19 environment, please do factor in these points also. That is, how are you going to manage the shipments? How are you going to manage in case something's breaks down in this lockdown scenario, which I believe is expected to continue for quite some time now. And how concerned are companies about the outbreak? Look at this, February and March, how it has increased, and it has dialed up from February to March. Somewhat concerned has again dropped, and not concerned has dropped to a mere 2%. So just within a month's time, the statistics have changed drastically across the table. One thing you have to remember is that disaster need not necessarily become tragedies. A disaster could be something that you could build upon. And when I was starting my career a long time back, and because I've been in the industry for like 25 years, and in the beginning, I was working on a critical assignment for a large company, and a major issue happened over there. And I still remember the head of that operations over there. He said something really critical, really interesting. He said, I was very worried because I was pretty young that time, and I had never seen such issues happening in organizations that size, huge organization, multi-billion-dollar. And I was working on a critical component that time, and he said, Narayan, disaster is too big an opportunity to miss. I said, what? And he repeated, he said, Narayan, think about it. A disaster is too big an opportunity to miss. It gives us, because a disaster gives us an opportunity to improve, to evolve, to do something, different, to work better, and to even identify our priorities and to understand, the pleasures of the smaller things in life, as you must have seen working from home now. So tragedies can be prevented. It's not necessarily so. This disaster that has happened need not necessarily turn into a tragedy for most of us. And the key is prevention through planning. There is business interruption and there's a disaster event that happens. So how are you going to evolve? And that's where the point of working from home has come into place. So the primary concern is protect the safety of employees and visitors at risk from any facility hazards which could be there even in the post-COVID environments. At this time, everybody's just guessing as to, even if the COVID-19, as and when it does get sorted out, how is things going to work after that? Are you still going to work with mask? Are you going to work 30% from home, 70 from office, or is it the other way around, or how is it going to work? Would you still encourage people to visit you in their offices? How is it going to happen? Because see, I was born and brought up in India, and over here, and even where when I started my business in India, what would happen is that most of these companies, they would, for taking any contract ahead, for taking even an assignment ahead, they would want you to come and visit them. But now with the COVID-19 environment, everything okay, you can work from your home, you can work from your office. So all those the priorities have changed. So how do you maintain customer service by minimizing interruptions and disruptions of business operations? Protect an investment. That's the most important thing, because if the investment is not protected, companies shut down, people get laid off. So when you're working on any sort of a, what we've learned from this COVID-19 and scenario is to work on all hazards, sum of all problems. As if you can even say, like almost everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. So how do you take care of it? So an all hazards approach is something that you need to think about. So what if some new hazard also comes up? So now we got the rains in India just 2 months away, just like a month away, not even 2 months away, just like a month away. And what if with this COVID-19 environment, what if there is a usual flooding and the disaster that the flooding happens? What do we do then? So that's like almost like multiple disaster upon disaster getting heaped up. So how is the business continuity going to work in that scenario? And this is my black or the tissue planning, if I might put it. So if you just scribble it out, these are the phases. Now this webinar is not on what is business continuity all about, so I will just skip through it and I'll not get into the depths of it. So this is what the business continuity cycle looks like. Business continuity planning life cycle looks like: initiate a business continuity program, conduct a BIA, develop the recovery strategies. We can do a solution implementation, do the solution implementation, testing and acceptance, do a routine maintenance, and back to square one, like what I saw earlier. It goes round and round. So get the first level of institutional commitment, is mentioned the bosses, do the planning, identify the who and what, identify the scope, then get into the actual business continuity risk management, BIA documentation, train the personnel, training, maintenance, testing, reassessing, then finally document and review, and then go back to institutional commitment for because I wouldn't say back to square one, because businesses evolve and there are always new priorities that comes into place. So with regards to the COVID-19 environment, this is a nice 4 actions to build up resilience and reshape your results. What we have critically learned is, first things first, put people first, put the safety of your people first. And that is where, even though many of us didn't like it, I was not very keen about it. That is the flexible work arrangements. Then the next thing, which is very important for me, that is the protection of my people, protection of on-site workers, and issue regular transparent communication that reassure employees and align with current government policies. Actually, to be honest with you, if I can just share my personal view, my personal experience in that, I underestimated the last point, that is issue regular transparent communications for reassuring of the employees, because when you're running a business, I am worried and stressed out about how things are going to work out, and my people are also worried and stressed out. So my reassuring message from me goes really a long way, and I realized the impact of it after I had given out the messages and getting the thank you from the team, the personal messages to the team, especially because we are one of the very few companies who didn't lay off anybody, who didn't cut down any sort of salaries or pay cuts. So rather, matter of fact, we are having more than almost a dozen people joining us as soon as the lockdown gets over. So we are actually going against the tide. And the next is communicate with the stakeholders. So that's where it could be internal investors, your suppliers, your vendors, your clients, and then reshape the strategy to maintain your business continuity. And most importantly, I said that to my team also, that is evaluate your short-term liquidity. That is just because the stocks, the stock market has tumbled and you get very cheap stocks at very good price, doesn't mean that you spend all your money. Or the gold has become cheap, so buy more gold. Or maybe somebody selling off his house in a distress selling, so you buy it off. Very important for you is to have your short-term liquidity. Assess your financial and operational risk for respond quickly. Alternative supply chain options. As I said earlier, whomsoever is your vendor for providing to you your hardware solutions. Now you cannot trust anybody. Always have your backup. Now, as a company, we are not selling any hardware or software, so this is not from me to somehow convince you to take us as your vendor for your hardware or your software purchases. So that's not us. Of course, you can always reach out to us to help you plan your business continuity or do your compliance and testing and see if there is any many countries like US, UK, Canada, Australia have given a lot of incentives for the government for organizations. So just keep in touch with it and just check what all can be done. And last but not the least is build resilience and prepare for recovery. uh, Recovery and the resumption part becomes the most important. That is at this point, the grayest area in recovery and resumption is how the resumption is going to happen. What sort of modalities would the government allow, and what sort of travel plans is the government willing to allow people post the COVID environment? Now, steps to all hazards business continuity. I'll not get into this. Don't worry. This is what you've seen in the loop earlier that we had seen. The planning team and the risk assessment team have this on ready, and this COVID environment, that is identify your stakeholders for the planning team, risk assessment on an ongoing basis, not just the first time, because the environment is changing rapidly. What could be done even like a month back in this COVID environment is not possible now because of the various clampdowns that is happening, because of various issues. It could be network issues, it could be mobile data issues, it could be synchronizing issues. What about your hardware or software? Like I know companies where they have VPN setups in office, and for some reason the servers are on, the VPN setups are on, but they are not able to touch the server, but nobody can go to office and restart the server. So those things are something that nobody anticipated, nobody that I know of. Unless you're a TCS or an Accenture or an HP or something where you are, where you can legally put a sticker on your car and or a bike and go to office and do something. For the second level of organizations, it's hell to pay. It's hell to pay, literally. So there is a threat constellation of cybersecurity, supply chain disruptions, business interruption, physical facility damage. That's another thing that you have to look at, that we have learned in this COVID environment. I've never seen this happen. That is, companies have been burglarized because even the guards are not there. Companies have been broken into across the board. There are so many industrial complexes in North India. There are so many industrial complexes even in South India that have been broken into and burglarized, and there is nobody can do anything because even the law enforcement are busy taking care of the corona scenario. So they can't even investigate or get you your stuff back or do something about it. You can't even post your guards over there because how are you going to do it with this lockdown that's happening? So the next and not the least is the essential employee absenteeism, because they are essentially not supposed to be in office. And even working from home, how do you know for sure that the person or your colleague sitting at home is not washing dishes or taking your kids out or taking the kids out, and but rather working and delivering on the work processes? The business impact analysis determine the essential function. So I believe like once the clampdown gets the lockdown gets regularized or dialed down a bit, there would be then the scurry for identifying your critical and your non-critical services functions, and then working on it likewise, and then assessing a disaster or disruption in impact to processes. For example, do you have a busy season coming up? Like it could be online, offline. Now there is no busy season unless you're into online, online services. But then again, there is no Amazon, million or $1 billion sale, or a Flipkart $1 billion sale or stuff like that. So it's not really going to be a busy season in most respects. So identify resources that support the processes, critical staff, backup skill sets. Uh, and the last point, there is a single point of contact is a single point of failure. So even for people, identify backups to even your people for the critical staff. What about the work from home culture? This thing makes sense. Work from home, day 1, work from home, day 5, day 15, and day 50. How are you going to reach office now? So I hope they are going to scale up their the width of the doors to let you in. So how are firms responding to the COVID-19 disruption? So look at the statistics. This is again by ACI Advisor Compliance Associates. They did a survey and they came to know that 52.7 have implemented 100% fully 100% remote work from home environment, and they are all okay with no licensing capacity or equipment issues. 30% almost is with license and equipment issues, and 17.6 not yet. And these are the companies would primarily be shutting down, most of them rather, because you cannot survive without deliveries, you cannot survive without the payments coming in. And look at what is the firm's most significant compliance program challenges while dealing with COVID-19. The number one is policy governance. We'll tackle this as we go ahead. Don't worry on that. Employee supervision, monitoring, and testing. Employee supervision is again coming up as a major challenge because most of the managers are complaining that they have to continually be in touch with the team to check on the deliverables and to ask them, whether you are doing your work properly and on time. Issue management, technology issues is almost like 25%, and outsourcing becomes again a major challenge for most organization, because at this time they don't even have the wherewithal to be able to identify the right people and work with them to take this thing ahead. And Gartner, how could we have a statistic without Gartner? So here they are. What percentage? 74% of percentage of companies plan to permanently shift to more remote work post the COVID crisis. 0% remain remote, that is like 26% of the companies. More than 50% is 5% will remain remote, 10% remain remote, that's like 25% of the companies. 20% will remain remote, that's like 70% of the companies. 50% will remain remote, that is 4%, and then finally more than 50% is 2%. Now this is interesting statistics from India. That is post the COVID environments. The TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, has said that 75% of their almost 500,000 employees will work from home by 2025, up from the current 20%. This is phenomenal because even as a company, even for us, I was discussing with my operations head today morning as to how we can continue this as a culture, because literally we are getting more done. My people are happy because for office in India, it on an average for office in India, on an average, like people spend in my office at least 2 to 4 hours in traveling every day. 3 to 4 hours is an average. Some are even spending like 5 hours in traveling every single day, 2.5 hours each way. And now if this person is allowed to work from home, can you imagine how happy the person would be, how long the person would actually stay with the company, and the attrition rate would also drop. So there are multiple statistics on that. So what are some overviews on work from home, the definition, trends, vulnerabilities, threats, and finally the physical controls and the recent NIST publications. The definition of remote access and remote working: the ability of an organization's remote organizational users to access its non-public computing resources from locations other than the organizational facilities. Under remote access to public resources is out of scope. Access between an organization facilities is out of scope, means within the organization is not in scope of remote access. That's a different ball game altogether. Now, the remote access trends has definitely gone up with the COVID crisis, increasingly popular because of widespread availability of internet access. So my mobile phone gives me mobile data speed of like 8 Mbps. Like a few years back, even the broadband at my home won't be that much speed. So I don't even need to have a full-fledged broadband at home. Even my mobile data is good enough for working from home. And nowadays, there are internet packages giving almost unlimited data. Going ahead, more applications and other resources available through remote access. There is a wide variety of client devices, including many outside the organization's control. And there are client devices in many types of environments which are going to be working and not working also. So we'll look into that. A few key vulnerabilities. Remote access have weaker protection than standard client devices. Typically speaking, many companies give watered down devices for their employees to work from home. Many devices are not managed by the enterprise. And in my personal opinion, I don't have stats to back it up, but that BYOD concept, which was like a hot topic some years back, I think it's going to go away with this work from home culture that will be coming up, because the risks are too bad, too much, and organizations would be more than keen to would be more than keen to ensure that their employees use company resources only, and only company resources. There are no enterprise firewalls and antiviruses protecting silly or the silliness of employees while they are working. And there is of course a lack of physical security controls. Let me give an example. Like I go out to attend some calls, and my son or my daughter might come and start working on the laptop, play some games or download some software, assuming that I forget to lock my machine. Now that scenario is not really an unthinkable scenario, an unheard of scenario, or a not possible scenario. It's a very well possible scenario. Now, the next thing is remote access clients may be used in hostile environments but not configured for them. So in that case, somebody's working from public Wi-Fi, or somebody's traveling and goes to the nearest Starbucks and sits over there. Now, nothing wrong with Starbucks, and we just got selected by Starbucks for their PCI compliance. So, and I love their coffee. So definitely, there is nothing wrong with Starbucks. But the point is, you can go there and work, and somebody might set up a fake access point, and data might get compromised with that. Like I'd seen some video by Checkpoint sometime back, how easy it is to literally mirror the people's lockdown, the people's laptops, by setting up a rogue Wi-Fi access at an airport. Now, remote access communications are carried over untrusted networks most of the time, if not all the time. All the time, it is like even now that I'm working, it's over a untrusted network that I'm working. Of course, now I'm not doing a remote access, I'm doing a webinar, but I access my office equipment, office data on an untrusted network, which means the internet. And of course, the threats, the vulnerabilities are that there could be, as I said earlier, the deployment of rogue wireless access points. Somebody just near a house sets up Wi-Fi with no password. So tempting for somebody to connect to it. Now, exploitation of remote access client devices and users phishing keyloggers to collect devices, credentials, unauthorized access to resources. When the person is working from office, the monitoring happens at a much better level. The configuration assessment happens at a much more finesse level, in a much more efficient and effective level. And then last but not the least is the loss or theft of remote access client devices, which means not just your laptops, it could be your phones, it could be your RSA tokens, the OTP, the one-time password tokens, a secure token you might have from so many organizations that you might have. Digital signatures may be lost because people are working from home. It could be that I keep my token somewhere and my child takes it to play because it looks very cute. So all those things are possible. A typical network scenario, this is something that we just cooked up immediately, which can help you design a network for your people to access internal networks. So employees are there using Apple or Windows machines connecting to the internet. Then they're connecting to the remote access server onto your network. Even ACOPS and all, so many organizations are there, cloud-based systems are there. They can, you can connect um, to the systems in the DMZ, ensure that your remote access systems are in the DMZ only, not in your internal networks. From there, using multi-factor, they can get double authenticated, means you confirm that it is the same person and not just a lost password. And then you can set up a jump server in your DMZ, and from the jump server, you can directly access your internal servers, which is the best option that we always say, have an internal jump server. It could be a Citrix-based solution or a VMware or something like that for publishing your application and ensuring that people are only getting access to those resources that they are supposed to be working on. A few checklist areas for you to have a proper secure, remote computing experience. Ensure that all internal and external workers, whether it is contract employees, third party, outsourced, or even your own employees, so they're accessing your office resources, it has to be via a virtual private network, an encrypted virtual private network. Ensure that all your employees are using endpoint protection, not just now. I would say endpoint protection, not, which includes not just an antivirus but also a personal firewall. So many organizations you've seen where to just save a few bucks here and there, they roll out an antivirus on the laptop but not a personal firewall, because under the impression that those people are anyway working under a firewall in their office. Well, my friend, if they're working from home, there is no firewall. So in that case, you better be having a firewall on their machine also, or send them a Fortinet or a checkpoint box for each of their homes. Now, since you can't do that, ensure that you have the licenses for a personal firewall on their laptops. Secondly is using a network access control to validate users an acceptable device configuration. So the question becomes, what do you mean by an acceptable device configuration? See, for example, somebody connects on a VPN and the antivirus of that machine is not updated, or the patches are not updated. Now the person connects to the internal network, starts working, and gets the entire network, infected with a malware, because maybe the antivirus is not updated or maybe the patches are gone. A NAC, before the person is given access to the network, will check for all these areas before the person is given access to the local networks. Ensure that your employees, as I said earlier, BYOD, I think is a finished concept now. Nobody will talk about it because everybody would be insisting, and I believe they should insist on company provided assets only. Okay, moving ahead. A few more for high risk industries, implement DLP for access to a broader than normal data range. A DLP again, see, they're sitting in a remote location. Nobody is there. There is no CCTV to see who's doing what. So even the later little bit data that might get, leave the network can get. There is a possibility of misuse. So again, the scenario should be on a best on a basis of a need to know only, not as to, okay, this person has been there for a long period of time, what can he or she do wrong, so let us give access to that person. No, that cannot be the perspective. Encrypt all data at rest and in transit. Now many companies are setting up VPNs so the data in transit is encrypted, but ensure that even the data at rest on the laptops are encrypted. Now, again, if you go in for a good endpoint protection system like a Symantec or a McAfee or a Trend Micro or even a Kaspersky, I like the product, but again, I'm not endorsing, but whichever product that you do, ensure that you are going for a product with at least three features. One is antivirus, personal firewall, and last but not the least is data encryption. And you set a policy in a way that the data folders and the data drives are encrypted, so that in case somebody goes to Starbucks or to some cafe shop and then loses the laptop, at least the data is not compromised. Of course, that doesn't mean that the other features provided by this endpoint protection system, like a patch rollout and stuff like that, are not good. It is good. I just mentioned the top three for you. Encrypt emails when possible. Email, by its very definition, is an insecure medium of sending data. Whether it is POP3, whether it is IMAP, whether it is SMTP, all are clear text protocols. Data flows in clear text. So ensure that you're using encrypted emails. Even Google now provides, MS Office 365 provides this encrypted email facility on SSL and or TLS. And necessarily, I would suggest organization to spend out a few more bucks and ensure that your employees are not using a public Wi-Fi sitting anywhere. Pay them a few pay them a few dollars more, so they can buy the appropriate data packs, but only connect on the data packs provided by the company and not a public Wi-Fi. Now, educate employees. Last but not the least, some cheapskate can still go to a Domino's or to a McDonald's or to a Starbucks or to an airport and latch on to a Wi-Fi which I think is free, but could be a hacker's rogue Wi-Fi access point. So in that case, do ensure that you educate your employees about the importance of realizing the error and understanding the threats and taking action likewise. But okay, over here there are 2 points that I'd like to say. Just a month down the line, and you've started getting inquiries of framing. Now hold on to your hats. Work from home agreements. Work from home agreements. That's what companies are asking for nowadays. As to earlier, they used to ask us for identifying and for writing out NDAs and contracts and stuff like that. That we help so many companies, but now they've even started asking for work from home agreements. So we do that also. And next is that we can also help your organization with training your employees with the threats and vulnerabilities of a work from home culture. And last but not the least over here, as far as a technical security checklist is concerned, instruct all your employees and provider employees to force the use of screen locks within a shorter than normal time frame. What I mean by that, this is again small things, but very, very important. See, at your home, in your office space. Now let us be very practical. Jokes apart, um, you know, in your office space, you'll be sitting for an hour or two at length on your machine. You might be keeping the screen on, looking at a chart or a graph, or maybe looking at a clip or whatever be the case, and you got a longer than like a screen lockout time as 15 minutes of inactivity. Now that doesn't really matter because you're sitting there in front of your screen for a long time. But at home, what happens? Maybe a child is crying, maybe your husband or wife is asking for something to be done, or maybe the bell rings and you have to rush to get something, or maybe you smell something burning in the kitchen and you just rush out. So what happens in that? Your machine is open. Now at your home, I'm sure that people won't deliberately do anything to harm you, but the point is that some child may sit on it and do something which is inappropriate and compromise the company's laptop. Or it could also be that you're sitting at a McDonald's or a cafe Wi-Fi, or maybe in a Walmart Wi-Fi, and you just your eyes off, and you lose your laptop, and it is still locked in. So the shorter than normal time frame, it could be like as low as 5 minutes, which we have seen companies implementing. This is also fine and it is acceptable. And if you're not doing that, I would suggest you to do it. A human resources checklist, safeguard record data with special information security protections. Now, with the virtue which I'd never seen her in this 25, 27 years of experience that I worked on. Um, Human resource checklist for virtual onboarding. Now, data is also flowing somewhere in air. So your GDPR becomes extremely important. Your privacy of employees becomes extremely important. Now, the next is they put in place physical security controls to ensure the overall safety of the employee in case you are having people transiting from X place to Y place. A legal protection checklist. While most workers will play by the rules, the time is now for enterprises to review their outsourcing contract, your sourcing contract, and follow the steps. Number one, pay special attention to location provisioning. Many countries, including India, have provisions and mandated that payments data or employee data cannot leave the country boundaries. So in that case, how do you do? What about data confidentiality, limitations of live indemnification provisions for remote employees? In these cases, because of the change in the threat and the vulnerability scenario, we strongly advise companies for cyber insurance policies. Like as a company, because we are a certifying body for many standards, we do like PCI DSS, PCI PIN, we do PADSS, we do HIPAA, GDPR, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, PDPA, PDPP, so many niche area standards. Um, we are covered as an organization by for insurance policies across the with global coverage for millions of dollars. We have it in place. So it's not that we think something can go wrong, but it is actually for giving the comfort to our esteemed and dear clients that you are in safe hands. So ensure that you're having the right cyber insurance policies for yourself and your outsourcing partner or your vendors. If you need any advice on that, don't worry. I'm not a insurance sales agent, but I'll be more than happy to help you out to identify as to what could be the right policies for you, and then you can buy from whom so you want. That is again some area that we can possibly be help you out. For more interesting read on remote access security, the best source we always say is the NIST guidelines. There's an SP 846, SP 877, 113, 114, 111. There is an SCAP, Security Content Automation Protocol. Then for wireless networking concerns, 897, 848, which is in draft, but still it's good use. And for testing remote access methods, there is 800, 115. So these are the provisions that you can, these are the links that you can use. Multiple publications are there for you to get more insight on securing your remote access. So that brings me to the end of my presentation, and it has been almost an hour for me now, 50 minutes. So thank you so much for your time. As we close, just give me a couple of minutes more, and I'll take you through some new stuff on this. But at the end, ensure that you please fill up the survey form. Most importantly, give us your ideas on what could be the future topics that we can cover and how it can be covered, what all your queries are, and I promise you I'll take it up in the next webinar. And for the next webinar, or I'll write back to you. For my next webinar, already you know the topic. Compliance issues with remote working for PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR, and again remote access, remote assessments for HIPAA, GDPR, SOC 2, and PCI DSS. So this will be my topic for the next webinar coming up. And these are the past webinars. Tons of them. They're all for free on our YouTube page. Um, these are my last was very successful with Nitin Bhatnagar, who's associate director for India from PCI Council. He spoke extremely well. That was the number one webinar that we've had till date. He has been very courteous, and the amount of data that he gave was phenomenal. And again, that's a YouTube page. You can search and you can do subscribe to it for more content. And our Facebook page, again, there are we keep on publishing a lot of information online. That's our LinkedIn page. You can follow the pages and you'll get a lot of new content as they release. Right, we keep writing a lot of articles, releasing short videos. You get access to it immediately if you're a signed up user. And those are my coordinates. Our contact details in for US, India, and Singapore are there, and that's my website, vistainfosec.com. So thank you again so much for your time. Do fill the survey towards the end, and I look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Till then, stay safe, stay blessed. Take care. Bye bye.